Welcome to Elevate Your Business. I'm your host, Ed Jurecki, and I'm excited to bring you insights and strategies that will help you transform your business journey. Thank you for tuning in and making us part of your entrepreneurial adventure. Here at Elevate Your Business, we cater to entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals who are eager to learn practical wisdom and actionable insights by featuring conversations with successful business owners and leaders who share their journey and the lessons they've learned along the way. Our goal? Provide you with the knowledge and tools necessary to thrive in your business endeavors. Today's guest personifies this mission. So make yourself comfortable, unwind, and let's extend a hearty greeting to our incredible guest today, Frank Rizzo. Frank is a co-founder of Stone Capital Investors and has over 2 decades of experience in real estate as a broker, owner, and syndicator. Over the past 12 years, Frank has been particularly active in the mobile home park space, acquiring and improving over 20 communities. He also co-founded the MHP Exchange, aiming to enhance affordable housing options through this platform by sharing valuable industry insights. Frank's approach emphasizes the importance of energy, drive, and passion in achieving success. As Frank joins us on the show, he'll shed light on what success means to him personally and how his definition has evolved over time, as well as one or two of his top challenges and the lessons learned associated with them. And finally for today, we'll explore how Frank has leveraged innovation in his business and other work to overcome challenges and achieve his goals. So join me in welcoming Frank Rizzo as we embark on another incredible episode of Elevate Your Business. And without further ado, welcome to the show, Frank. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Ed. Thank you for having me, and thank you for getting me on this program.
Well, I appreciate it so much. It is absolutely my honor. So to start with, would you share a little bit more about your business and yourself?
Absolutely. So I've had a real estate career for over 20 years. I started out getting my real estate license at 19. Quite frankly, at that point, as an agent, it was before Zillow or less had the internet, and you needed a book to go into the real estate office every Friday. There was a new book to show you all the listings, and people had to walk in. So I'm not trying to date myself, but that's how far back that experience goes. When I re-entered the real estate business in my 20s, I was working on the investment side of it with a developer where we were buying distressed properties, buying land that we were repurposing, going through the approval process and beginning new construction. Fast forward when I launched my own real estate company in 2009, we focused on alternative investment and investment strategies. We worked on non-performing loans or NPLs, and we had a brokerage business in New York. It kind of led me to the mobile home park space by working with a family and assisting them in helping them kind of helped me find out where my true calling was in real estate. I helped them as they relocated outside of New York to North Carolina. And as we were trying to supplement the income as they were selling out their apartment buildings and multifamilies in Brooklyn, they asked me to represent them to find assets that could replace that income. And I stumbled across mobile home parks, mobile home park investing. In order to encourage the families to make them move into a mobile home park, they wanted me to stay in the deal with them and run it. And 12 years later, here I am. We went from working with them on one side to building out a platform we've been involved in over 23 communities right now. We own and operate in 3 different states in the Southeast, and we're looking to continue to grow and continue to improve communities, Ed.
Outstanding. I love it. And so when you consider success today, how would you define that?
That's a great question. I think, when you start out, and, I come from very humble beginnings. My father, quite frankly, had worked his way up in a blue collar in the Port Authority, started as a painter, ended as a structural mechanic. So come from humble beginnings. And when you first start out, the idea is to generate money for yourself. The idea is I want to do better than what my father had done and be able to put my family in a position where you're not so worried about where your next check is coming from, or are we going to make the next month's bills? But I think as you evolve over time, it goes from the freedom of money to the freedom of time, right? And what is the best use of my time? Because at the end of the day, that's the ultimate freedom, to be able to put the process and systems in place to allow you to work on the things where your unique ability is best utilized. And that would help you grow. So when I look at success now, it's how can I elevate the business where I can focus on the things which drive me, which keep me going, and not get bogged down in the things that are necessary, but maybe not necessarily my strong point.
And so when you consider that journey, how did you define success before? How has that evolved from the beginning?
So defining success before was very binary. It was closing this deal, right? If I closed this deal, that was successful. And at the end of the year, I had to close a certain amount of transactions. And everything was very to that number. Today, it's in the impact that we're having and in getting more people into the platform with us. Like how many additional communities can we add on? How are we enhancing the scope? How efficient are we being in onboarding them? How quickly are we doing our job? So I think we've kind of tweaked it to just a number, so to speak, like adding more to, hey, how do we refine what we have, make it more efficient and make everybody inside that more productive?
And of course, that journey is always wrought with challenges. And I've had this conversation quite often that no business is without dealing with a different set of challenges than you would if you were in a corporate job someplace. What are one or two of those challenges that you've experienced and the lessons learned that you could pass along to our audience?
Sure. I think the biggest, one of the biggest challenges that you have is regardless of the business that you're in. And like we're in real estate, and I tell people it's never about bricks and sticks. It's always about people. And it's about managing the people that you have, not only in the communities we operate, but inside our organization. When you have a multitude of different people that you have to work with, it's clear communication of goals, expectations, and then results. So people need to understand what you want to see from them, what's part of the culture you're trying to bring in. And it has to be not just the way that I might say it, but it's the way they also hear it, because everybody can hear the same thing, or we could say the same things, but everybody absorbs it a little bit differently. So that's a challenge when you're so used to go, go, go. And most entrepreneurs, they have a mindset that they could do things better than everybody, and it's go, go, go. But not everybody is up to that speed. And you have to make sure that there's clear communication straight across the board when you're scaling your organization.
And so I liken that to a win-win-win strategy because you mentioned your clients, your tenants, your staff, and of course your business yourself.
Yes, correct. And as we've grown, obviously that we started out with friends and family that moved into investors working with us. And as that grows, it's clear communications with the people, the stakeholders in your business. So they know what the expectation is, what you're doing, and having that transparency. And I think that's a real key that as a business owner or entrepreneur, you need to be able to share and bring downstream.
Any other key lessons learned you'd like to share with our audience?
I had somebody tell me this along my journey. When my partner and I started our business, we were hands-on on everything, every aspect of it. And you could do that to a point. And then as you start to scale and grow, it's knowing what to let go of. And then somebody had explained this to me in the best way, and I use this analogy a lot, like a rocket ship. It goes up with a payload, and then it gets to a certain level, and you have to let go of certain things, and you have to move forward. And I think one of the big challenges that we face is where do you let go? And having the right people in place to take over that load. That's a huge challenge, especially for myself, I think, because we were so used to doing everything. But what gets you to a certain level can only get you so far. That's a different skill set taking you to that next level. And that was always one of my biggest challenges, and one of the things that you constantly work on to create an environment where you're going to allow people to foster and grow, and you're going to focus on what you need to do to grow your business, to grow your platform, and to be able to do the strategic thinking that you need to really set yourself apart.
I love that rocket analogy. That makes a whole lot of sense. That way you can continue to grow your organization versus plateauing before you start growing again or hit a decline, which can really put a serious burden on your ability to grow.
Or you burn out, quite frankly, Ed. I mean, you could be in there trying to do so much, and you get to a point where you just can't do it anymore. And then it becomes a job. Yeah. And I think, and you understand how important it is to be free, right? Like to be able to do what you want to do and go where you want to go and to live the life that you've imagined. And then when you get to that phase where you're carrying that load and you're trying to bring up 8 boulders up the hill at the same time, it's easy to burn out and look at what you love and it becomes a job. And I think for us, I've had a couple of distinct advantages. One is I have a partner who we both have different skill sets that we know and recognize and appreciate in the other. So that allows me to focus on more on what I do really well. And I trust that he's going to do what he does really well. And not that we don't, have passionate conversations about which direction, but we know what the other person is doing at all time, which is super key. But it's letting go from that. And I think that gave us a huge advantage and a huge ability to grow and scale the business at a time where if I had to do it all myself, it would have been a little bit more challenging.
Absolutely understood. So trusted partnerships, and even beyond that for the small, mid-sized businesses out there, that trusted partnerships inside the organization, but trusted partnerships with your vendor partners as well, right?
Correct. Correct. It's the old adage where you hire slowly and then fire quickly if you have to. I mean, building that trust takes time. And then when you have that trust, you want to keep that trust. We like to say the toughest thing in life is finding good people, but when you find them, you figure out a way to keep them around. And sometimes, like in our space, we're in the manufactured housing space, we have some vendors that have worked with us in multiple states and multiple jobs. They won't always be the cheapest, right? Like the lowest price. However, we know that they're trustworthy, they're reliable, that if there's an issue on the ground, that we're going to get an honest response on it. And they're going to work with us knowing what our end goal is. They know the product that we want to put out. They know the type of environment we want to create on the ground. And they're going to ensure that that mission is completed. And we can trust that we're getting honest back and forth feedback to best suit that. So when situations arise, we're not second guessing who we're working with. And we've all had that experience. Why with a cheap contractor? Now all of a sudden there's an issue. And when we find somebody we trust, whether they're a vendor or somebody in an organization, you figure out a way to keep them around because that's the toughest thing in life to find.
Absolutely. And that can really disrupt that ability to have a work-life balance and enjoy the journey as part of owning that business if you're constantly dealing with issues where you've got to dive back in to fill gaps because you don't have the right people in those roles. Is that a fair way to express that?
That is a perfect way to express that. And at the end of the day, what's important for us, and look, we're in a great space. We want to make our communities better. We typically look at buying deep value add or opportunistic mobile home park communities that have suffered from levels of disinvestment for years, whether it's third generation family, bad legacy planning, what have you. And we're going in there and doing a deep dive and improvement of that community. We need to know our people on the ground, share our vision of where to get there, how to do it efficiently, how to do it quickly, how to do it cost effectively, so we can maintain an affordable housing component to that, right? And we could still make an affordable option for our residents that can offer them some really great value. I mean, that's been our business model from day one. And having people take part of that is so important. So having the right team on the ground with a back office that supports them is so super important.
And based on what's happened these last few years with inflation and stuff like that, affordable housing, of course, has become a bigger question, a bigger issue across the United States and around the world. But if we just even focus here on the United States, this isn't an issue that I think there are 3.5 million different families in need of affordable housing solutions.
So the numbers from NAR economists can range from 4 million to 7 million homes short to address the housing need. Now, people have this stigma about manufactured housing, right? But the reality is, it is the most affordable of all affordable housing options out there. A manufactured home can be delivered at a fraction of the cost of a traditional stick-built home. There are more options. The efficiency of which it can be made and delivered cannot be beat by traditional methods. And quite frankly, it's more affordable than any other housing option. So whether it's a subdivision community, which we're building out, or it's a manufactured housing community where we're offering the housing, but we're maintaining the land and the grounds, these are great options for people. And it's serving a need that, quite frankly, affects every American straight across the board. I mean, it's a pocketbook issue for for essentially 99% of all of us, right? How can we find affordable housing options in the cities and the communities that we live in? And manufactured housing is number one. It's the best way to do that.
That leads us to our next question, which is really around innovation. How is innovation helping you and your business?
That's a great question. I think there's a couple of ways where we're utilizing that. I mean, having some KPIs in our business and then being able to collect that data downstream from our on-site community managers allows us to make more efficient and quicker decisions based on that data. So being able to see how long it takes for a unit to turn over and tracking that, seeing where we might be losing money in some expenses, whether there's a underground leak in a water pipe, that allows us, by monitoring those systems on a daily basis, we can identify where there might be a problem before maybe a resident would tell us, because we could see where water is being used. So there's some cost savings there as well. Separately,
I love that.
we've actually built out an AI platform that we're using called Chat MHP, which allows us to aggregate data in areas and markets that we're looking for. So if there's questions about parks in the area, questions about rent prices in the area, we can get that data, right? And we could utilize that in our underwriting or in our modeling to be able to better see where our points are that we need to be hitting on. And that Chat MHP is something that we designed for ourselves, but we put it out on our platform as well for other people to use that or to utilize that service as well.
Outstanding. And the future relative, and considering that same question around innovation, the future, where do you see your business going relative to leveraging different type of innovations?
So that's a great question. We're obviously very cognizant that there's some technological changes happening across the board. I think we see manufacturers utilizing that in the homes, which is going to allow us to monitor the homes that we bring in. You could bring it in more cost effectively, more affordably than any other housing stock. It allows the speed of which you can order a home and get it delivered to the end user. Like if you're building a traditional new home, new construction home, a stick built, it's going to take you 6 to 9 months, bare minimum. I mean, we're based in New York City. That's closer to 12 months.
Right.
However, with a manufactured home, I could have a new home delivered between 8 and 10 weeks. So that time frame is super important. That can make a big difference for the end user who's looking for a home now, who might not have 6 months to wait or 9 months to wait or a year to wait. So that speed is going to deliver, I think, even more efficiencies in our business. So it'll make operators like us have to utilize that technology to make sure that we can meet market demand in the markets, not create an oversupply, but meet market demand and provide a better product for our consumer.
Now, I know in the East Coast, and I think there's at least 2 businesses in the Minnesota area that are focused on composite components. So walls, floor pieces, ceiling pieces, roof pieces, and stuff like that. Is any of that in consideration relative to your business?
So we're not on the manufacturing side. We're on the service side for the end user. So we do speak with our manufacturers about the best products that they've got in terms of what they're putting out in their product. But as far as that, I probably wouldn't be expert to be able to answer that question for you.
Okay. Anything else relative to an innovation perspective you'd like to talk about?
I think the way that people are utilizing the data now and in driving those efficiencies, we're coming from a very fragmented mom and pop. And it's still, the industry predominantly is very fragmented, very mom and pop. It's still owned predominantly by that. Every other real estate space has been dominated by PE firms or large family offices. This is not. So there hasn't been a tremendous amount of innovation in the MHP space because of who the owners were. But having just come back from a conference, I'm telling you, over the last 4 to 5 years, we've seen larger entrants look for a place to go into that space, whether it's either for chasing yield or realizing that affordability issue is not going away.
Right.
So it's going to force more operators, if they want to stay in this space, to become more efficient using that data, right? Using real-time data to create value. Because if not, the issue that we're going to run into. A poorly run park in a city or town runs the risk of being closed down, because we see a number of that happening throughout the year. And then the city is losing that affordable housing option, because then it'll go to the highest and best use, which is usually a high-rise apartment building or some industrial complex. And it only worsens the affordability issue we have in this country. So being able to implement real-time solutions is so critical for any operator in our space. That's why we've always looked to ways that we can implement that to get that information from the ground, to be able to make a decision on that quickly, so we can make the best decision possible to run those communities.
One final question in this particular area, and it's kind of a stretch out there, but I know in 2025, 2026, commercial real estate notes are coming due, and that means repricing of those properties. And those prices, just like home prices, my guess, are going to jump quite a bit, which is going to force larger organizations that own those properties to figure out what are they doing about that. Does that play in any way into your model?
I think it does. And it does. And I think you have, $1.4 trillion that needs to be reset. And I know everybody's been focused on the office side, but on the multifamily side, there's been a lot of kicking the can down the road, but at some point that's going to stop. And I do think in our space, which is the mobile home park space, it's no different. You probably have some operators who should not have gotten into the business. They're not set up to be mobile home park operators or sponsors of deals, but they thought it was a good thing to try. And their assets aren't performing the way they should or the way they expected to get those rates reset, especially because rates are so much higher now. So I do think in this market in particular, because there's a constrained supply and we're not building enough mobile home parks to meet demand, I don't think the industry itself is going to be in distress, but I do believe you're going to see a number of distressed situations with sponsors or operators who entered the space and now find themselves challenged. So for us, over the last few years, we've been probably more net seller than net buyer, believing that those opportunities will advance. We monitor them regularly. We are in contact with a number of different opportunities that we see that could open themselves up for us to step in. But because in this space in particular, I think the sponsor experience is so important. And I've been in other asset classes, multifamily, commercial. In this space in particular, if you're not solely focused on the MHP space, I've seen sophisticated real estate guys get themselves caught in a trap because there's so many different verticals and nuances that you don't see anywhere else. That's why for us, we're mobile home park owner and operators. We're vertically integrated. That's all we do. We don't touch other asset classes but I do think you're going to see some distressed situations open up in the next 12 to 18 months.
It's going to be very interesting, isn't it? Final takeaways. If there was one thing that you could leave our audience that you said, through your business journey, you really need to consider this, what would that be?
At times, you have to be able to see the forest through the trees. I've invested thousands of dollars in personal development, whether it's in trainings, in books, in things to better yourself and your business, to take a step back, to take 2 steps forwards. And I think sometimes as business owners, we get caught up in the day-to-day where you're working in your business and not on your business. But you have to take that step back. And sometimes it's making those tough changes, realizing maybe you have somebody in the wrong position, or maybe just because you've been doing it this way, it doesn't serve you anymore. And you have to take that honest self-assessment to be able to move yourself forward, to get to where you want to be. So we could all end up in the Virgin Islands on a house on the beach and being able to enjoy the sunshine. And to get there, you can only do that if you have some real honest self-assessment of yourself and your business, and to make sure what you're doing is aligning with your goals.
I love that 100%. Any final thoughts?
And I think what you're doing is a great service. And I tell people, why, when people ask me, why are you in this space? And 10 years ago when we did this and from New York City, and people would say, well, there's so much opportunity here, why go there? This is an issue. Affordable housing is an issue that affects everybody. And it's an issue that's not going away. We believe if you're deploying capital in real estate, this is something that you need to be looking at, or exploring, because it's going to affect every other asset class. I mean, people need a place to live, and affording affordable housing options is super important. So that's something to consider, and something that people should visit and look at. And secondarily, on your journey, just taking a nice assessment of where you are and what you need to do to go forward.
I applaud your area of focus and what you do to address this huge 4 to 7 million home gap. That's huge. And if we don't address that, I think that as an economy, we're going to be struggling if people are worried about having a roof over their head that they can afford.
Sure. And you can end up with a renter nation. I mean, look, it's the number one way to transfer wealth is to own something, own a home, own real estate. It's the number one way of transfer, and to get people out of a rental mentality to an owner mentality. And that's so key, because we want our next generation of citizens to know the pride of ownership, because it does definitely impact the communities they're in. It makes them feel more vested. It makes them feel like they've got something to, that they want improved. So by providing those options, I think it's very, very helpful.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank you all for joining us today, and a special thank you to our incredible guest, Frank Rizzo, for sharing his insights, experiences, and success tactics with us. We hope this conversation has left you inspired and motivated to embrace the challenges of entrepreneurship with vigor, innovation, and adaptability. Remember, success comes in many forms, and it's essential to define it for yourself. Take the lessons shared by Frank to heart as you navigate your own entrepreneurial journey. Embrace change, seek out opportunities for growth, and always be willing to adapt to the ever-evolving landscape of business. Thank you once again to our phenomenal guest speaker, Frank Rizzo, and thank you all for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you next time as we continue exploring the stories behind incredible entrepreneurs. Stay resilient and innovative. Have a wonderful day, everybody.